The Killer Across the Table by John E. Douglas and Mark Olshaker is another book by the duo behind the book Mindhunter. Two FBI guys. Well, I don't know if Mark is, but John E. Douglas is an FBI guy who's an expert on criminal behavior. So this book basically is divided into 4 parts. There's 4 different cases that they explore. The first one was about, I think, a high school teacher who killed some girls. I honestly don't remember who the second one was. The second one was, yeah, the first 2 cases are not very interesting. As you can tell, I can't even remember what the second case was. They go into full detail. Each part of the book is like a good 25% of the book. But the most interesting part is part 3 and 4. Part 3 is the Angel of Death. Donald Harvey, he is a man who was an orderly, and back in the 70s he didn't have a lot of checks and things like that. So he was able to get a job as an orderly, and I think his first kill was someone had dementia and accidentally wiped poop on his face, so he got really mad and smothered the man, and then he realized that he sort of kind of got off on the power of having life or death over someone else. So he was one of those sort of meek killers that doesn't, you know, like take people out violently, but he does it in a sort of, you know, I'll get you, you know, because you asked for too much applesauce or something like that. He was one of those lording the power over vulnerable people types. So he would learn, and he had all these, he would learn and find better ways to mask the ways he would execute his victims. He would give them poison, or he would do this or that, and he had a very prolific kill count, and it was one of the more interesting aspects of the book because there's a different kind of killer. He's someone who goes after vulnerable people rather than, you know, blitz attacking. And then the 4th one was also really interesting. It was the super bike murders. It was 4 people killed in a motorcycle shop, and then we don't find out who killed them until way later, and it was a man who was responsible for a few other murders, and he got caught with that, and that's the thing that sort of brought everything together. So he was more of a mass killer mixed with serial killer, also a kidnapper too. So the last 2 cases were more interesting than the first 2. The first 2 I don't even remember. It was like the high, I think it was, yeah, it was the teacher. And I think the second one was the guy who went after, oh yeah, it was the guy who went after kids of family and friends. And he was like the weird guy that was like really low effort. He would always blame other people for not catching him, or, for example, this one family that he was friends with had a secret password for whenever they needed to pick up the girl from school, and they told it to him in conversation. So they gave him access to their daughter basically, and he was able to kidnap her really easily. And he just sort of he was very low effort. You know, he would go after them if the moment allowed it. He wouldn't go after a strange kid because the kid would scream. He would go after someone that he knew, or someone that he could get trust with. Pretty sure that was the second killer. Yeah, so this book wasn't as interesting as the first, as Mindhunter. Mindhunter covered a lot more topics, more killers, a lot of methodology. This one repeated some stuff. Like, he really likes that story where he talks to Scott Glenn, and Scott Glenn is playing Jack Crawford in Silence of the Lambs. It's based off his character. I mean, not his character, but his character is based off Johnny Douglas. And Johnny Douglas plays tapes of these 2 guys that would kidnap and torture people, and then Scott Glenn goes like, "Oh man, this is so terrible. I'm all for the death penalty now." He likes that story. I'm probably going to hear it in his other books too. But some of the stuff is repeated from Mindhunter. It's not a big deal, but you know, you can really tell that he's like, "Oh yeah, I convinced a Hollywood actor to like the death penalty." Sure. So, yeah, Killer Across the Table is a pretty interesting book. The second half saves it, and I give it a 3.5 out of 5.